Welcome to this predicted paper from onmaths that is based on the advanced information given to us by the exam boards. Please use this paper in addition to your other revision. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. Onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing. The first thing to do when working out what angle things need to be on a pie chart is to add up the frequencies. So we're going to do 14 plus 7 plus 3, and we find out that that's 24. Then we're going to find the angle that one item would be. So one item is going to be, well, there are 360 degrees in a triangle, and there are 24 items. So we're going to do 360 divided by 24. And that gives us 15 degrees. So each item is worth 15 degrees, or will take up 15 degrees. So to find out the angle for red, well, we've got 14 items, times it by 15, and that will give us 210 degrees. And we're just going to times each of these by 15, which will be 105, and the final one times 15 is 45 degrees. Add them up and they add up to 360, which is good. They need to add up to 360. So we got our protractor, rest it on a pie chart. Now we know 180 is down here, so the first thing we're going to do is just mark that on, because the first angle is going to be 210, so we know that's 180 so far. So I'm going to turn my protractor around, and from 180, 210 will be another 30, so I'm just going to plot that on. And then I'm going to join it up. So start at the center and join that up. And we're going to stop when the circle stops. Then to do 105, we're going to put our protractor in the middle. And we're going to look at 105, which will be up here. And then we're just going to join it up with a straight line. And then we're just going to check the last angle. And so if I put my protractor on it, and it is 45 degrees. Perfect. Now, an important step to not miss is you need to label them. And so the first one is red, the second one is blue, and then the final one is other. A plan is a view that you would get if you were on top of the shape. So you were in an airplane or something looking down on the shape. So the sides of this that we'll see, well, we'd see this bit here, and we would see this bit here. So I'm going to start off with the first bit I shaded, and we've got to figure out what the different lengths will be. Well, this would be 2 centimeters across, and the whole thing is 8 centimeters. The bit we don't want is 3 centimeters, so this part here will be 5. It would look like it was 5 wide. So let's draw that on. And so we've got 2 centimeters down, and we've got 5 across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is what it would look like from above. Now the other part will be same 2 centimeters, but it will be 3 centimeters across. So we have 3 centimeters across. Now, whenever you have a join or a change in elevation, you need to show that with a line across. And so this will be our completed answer. So firstly, we're going to work out what the percentage increases are as a multiplier. So we start off with 100%. Jane has a 1.2% interest, pay rise, sorry. And so that would be 100 and 1.2%, and we divide that by 100 to make it a multiplier. So the multiplier is 1.012, so we get the 20,000 times it by 1.012, and that gives us 240. Next we do the same for Lenny, so that is Jane. And so let's do Lenny. And so that's 100% plus the 1.5%, will be 101.5%. Make that a multiplier, 101.5%. We divide that by 100, which gives us 1.015. And then finally what we do is we get the 17,000 times it by the multiplier. And when we do that, we get 255. So Lenny has 255, Jane has 240. So it says which of the employees has a larger pay increase and by how much. So the answer will be Lenny, and it's by £15 because that's the difference between these. So we know that the mean is the sum of numbers over the amount. But in this question, we're actually given what the mean is. We're given that that is 29. We're also given the fact that there are 4 cards, so we're given the amount. So what we can do is just get our lines in and solve this. So what we're going to do is just times both sides by 4. So we're going to do 29 times 4, which is 116. And so we know that the sum of the numbers will be 116. So all we need to do is to find the 4th card, is get that 116 and just take away the numbers that we know. And when we do that, we get the answer 26. Now you can easily check this by adding up 37, 26, 27 and 26 again, and then dividing it by 4, and you will get 29. For mutually exclusive events for A and B, the probability of A or B is equal to the probability of A plus the probability of B. Now we're given the probability of A or B, which is 0.36, and we're given the probability of A, which is 0.12. And so to work out the probability of B, all we need to do is going to solve this. We're just going to take away 0.12 from both sides, and that will give us 0.24 is equal to the probability of B. So B must be 0.24. It only works if A and B are mutually exclusive though. To answer this question, we need to cut this shape into 2 shapes. So we're going to draw a line across here, and we're going to cut it into a rectangle and a triangle. Now we need to first of all label the parts of the triangle. So the length or the width of the triangle, the base, will be the same as the base at the bottom, so that will be 20 centimeters. And we need to find the height, which is this length here, which is 90 degrees to the base. And to find that, what we can look at is the fact that the total height of the whole thing is 13, and the height of the bit we don't want is 11. So what's left over? Well, 2 centimeters will be left over, so the height will be 2 centimeters of the triangle. So let's work out the area of the triangle first. Which is going to be half times base times height. Half times the base, which is 20, times the height, which is 2, will just give us 20. Now let's work out the area of the rectangle. And that's just going to be the width times the length. Width is 20, the length is 11, so that would be 220. Then to work out the total area of the whole thing, we're just going to add those together. So 220 plus 20, which is 240. The units are all in centimeters, and so the area units will be centimeters squared. We're going to start off by writing the numbers that the dots are at. So we've got -12 and we've got -5, and x is anywhere between those. Now it's obviously going to be greater than -12, and it's going to be less than -5, but it can equal minus 12, and the reason for that is it's a filled in dot, but it can't equal minus 5 because that is a hollow dot. There's a formula we use for this, and it is percentage change is equal to the amount that's changed over the original amount, and all of that times 100%. So how much has changed here? Well, we need to do 10,488 take away 10,254, so that would be 234. Divide it by the original, so the original was 10,488 because it's decreased from that amount, and then times by 100%. And so that's going to be 2.23%. We've got first of all work out how many parts there are altogether in our ratio. So we've got 51 saying yes, 7 saying no, and 13 undecided. So altogether we've got 51 plus 7 plus 13, which is 71 parts. Now each part is equal. So to find out the value of one part, we're going to do how many students there are, which is 2,911, and divide it by the 71 to find out what one part is worth, how many students are in one part. One part's worth 41 students. So each one of those parts in the ratio is 41 students. Now yes, because it goes yes, no, undecided, yes will be the 51 there. So it's 51 lots of 41 students. 51 parts with each part representing 41 students. And when you multiply those together, you get 2,091. So our answer is that 2,091 students responded with yes. So to find the probability, we're going to do the successful outcomes divided by the total number of outcomes. So looking at this question, it says number of times it should land on a 1, so that would be 1 over the total amount, which is 11. So the chance of us getting a 1 is 1 over 11. To find the expected amount, we do the probability and we times it by the amount of trials. So it says it's spun 60 times, so we're going to times it by 60. And that will give us the answer of 5.454 blah blah blah. Now it can't have landed on a 1 5.4 times, so it's definitely, well, this probability, we always round down, so never ever round up, because it's 5 times and then a little bit extra, and so only when it gets to 6 can we say that it's 6 times. So the answer to this is just 5. So to find the area of a rectangle, we just multiply the width and the length. So that's what we're going to do here. But whenever you have an expression representing a length or a width or anything really, you just put brackets around it. So we go u minus 2 times u plus 9. Okay, and the way we do this is with our grid. And just going to draw out the grid. And so we've got u minus 2, and we're multiplying it by u plus 9. Don't want too many for some reason. And so we've got u times u, which is u squared, u times minus 2, which is minus 2u, 9 times u, which is 9u, and 9 times minus 2, which is minus 18. And what we're going to do is we're just normally going to be able to add these ones together. So our answer will be u squared, and then we're going to do 9u plus minus 2u. Well, that's just going to be 9u take away 2u, which is 7u. So plus 7u, and then minus 18 at the end. So this question says that Adrian Ben and Charlie have some sweets, and the ratio of Adrian to Ben to Charlie is 9 to 6 to 13. But it also says that Charlie got 56 more sweets than Adrian. So there's 56 more sweets. Well, looking at the actual parts of the ratio, there are 4 more parts. So plus 4 parts, which represent plus 56 sweets. So the 4 extra parts are worth 56 sweets. So 4 parts are worth 56 sweets. So 1 part would be 56 divided by 4, which is 14 sweets. So all we need to do now is work out how many parts there are. Well, there are 9 plus 6 plus 13 parts, which is 28. And each part is worth 14 sweets. So the total number of sweets will be 28 times 14. So 28 times 14 is 392. We can rewrite this question as 2 over 3 divided by 20 over 1. So whenever you have an integer, it's just the same as that integer over 1. Now the rule is that we're going to keep, flip, and change. So we're going to keep the first fraction as 2/3, change the divide to a times, and flip the second fraction. Then we multiply the tops and multiply the bottoms. We can actually halve top and bottom here, and it does ask us to simplify it if possible. So our answer is 1 over 30. So we're going to write an expression for the amount of people on the first bus. So they've started with X passengers and they've gone to 11 bus stops with X passengers. So altogether that is 12X. So we're going to have the first bus. And so we've got 12X. And then on the last bus stop, 19 passengers get on. So plus 19. Now for the second bus, well, we start with X and a further 5X come on. Because 5 bus stops with X passengers, so that's 6X altogether. And then 79 get on. And it says the first bus finishes with less passengers than the first. So the first bus finishes with less. And the way we show that is with this inequality here. Now all we need to do is solve that inequality. And we've got X on both sides, so we look at the X's. We've got 12X and 6X, so we always take away the smaller amount. So we're going to take away the 6X both sides. And next thing we're going to do is take away the 19 from both sides. And so, meant to be 60. Got ahead of myself. And the last thing we do is divide by 6 both sides. And so we've got X is less than 10. Now, it says here, assuming no passengers got off either bus, what is the largest value for X? Now, it is tempting to write down 10, but it says X has to be less than 10. So the biggest number we can get that is less than 10 is 9. To find the mean, we need to work out the sum of the numbers, basically what they add up to. And what we then do is divide that by the amount of numbers. Now, what this table is telling us is there are 14 students who got a time between 0 and 4 seconds. Now, it's absolutely impossible to work out what time those students got with the information in this table. So what we need to do is we need to assume they all got, say, 0 seconds or all got 4 seconds. And the fairest value to say that they all got is what we call the midpoint. And to find the midpoint, what you do is you add up the lower bound and the upper bound, so the highest value and the lowest value, add them together and divide by 2. So 0 plus 4 divided by 2, which is just 2. And that gives us a halfway number, which is fair to everyone. So the students roughly probably got 1s, 2s and 3s, and maybe a few 4s maybe. And the average of that is going to be 2, so that's fair for everyone. Same with the 4 and the 8. Halfway between 4 and 8 is 6, and you can add them together. 12 divided by 2, which is 6. Go down finding the midpoints, and we're just going to assume the students all scored the same amount, all got the same time. Then we're going to do our FS column. Okay, and so we're assuming that 14 students got a time of 2 seconds. So when you times those together, you get 28. And we're just going to times all of these together. Okay, next we're going to work out the sum of the FS. And to work that out, we just add all of these up together. So we're going to do 28 plus 36 plus 30 plus 126 plus 36. And when you add them all up, you get 256. Now, that will give us the sum of numbers, so we're going to put that into our working out now. And we need to find out how many numbers there are. Well, the frequency column will tell us how many numbers there are, so we're just going to add all of those up together. So we're going to find the sum of the frequency, which is 14 plus 6 plus 3 plus 9 plus 2, which is 34. And when we do 256 divided by 34, we get 7.529, blah, blah, blah. It says it wants it to 2 decimal places, so we're going to round it to 7.53. We can't work out what x is straight away, but we can find this value here. And we know with Pythagoras we can find a third length if we've got other 2 in a right angled triangle. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And a and b were labelled. C is always opposite the right angle, so it'd be 49 squared plus b squared equals 68 squared. And 49 squared is 2,401. And 68 squared is 4,624. So we are solving here, so let's get our lines down. And we're going to start by subtracting the 2,401 from both sides. So we've got b squared equals 2,223. Then we're going to square root both sides, and we've got b equal to 47.148, blah, blah, blah. Okay, we're now looking at the second diagram, and this time we're going to have A, we've got our B, and we're going to call X the C. So it'd be A squared plus B squared equals C squared, but this time A is 39. B we are given as 47.148, we've just worked that out. And we're looking for C, in fact we can call it X now. Okay, so we need to square that. So we do 39 squared plus 47.148 squared, and that will be 3,744 equal to X squared. And we'll just get our lines in because we need to square root both sides, and we get 61.188 blah 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 is equal to X. It says it wants its 2 decimal places, so that will be 61.19. To convert from meters to centimeters, we times by 100. But here we're asked to convert between meters cubed and centimeters cubed. So we times it by 100 per dimension. Meters cubed and centimeters cubed is volume, which is 3 dimensions. So what we do is we times it by 100 3 times, times 100, times 100, times 100, or times by 100 cubed. So we get our amount, 0.15, times it by 100 cubed, and that will give us 150,000. So our answer is 150,000 centimetres cubed. So we're going to start by understanding that all lines form or can form an equation y equals mx plus c, with m being the gradient and c being the y-intercept. It says here the gradient is -2, so we've already got a bit of a head start with this, but we don't know what the y-intercept is. So we're going to use this first set of coordinates to work out what the y-intercept is. So y is -31 and x is 15. And we're going to use this to solve and find out what c is. So first thing I'm going to do is, well, just tidy this up. 2 times 15 is 30, so -30 plus c. And I'm just going to add 30 to both sides to get c on its own. So that would be -1 equals c. So c is -1. So we now know that the equation is y equals -2x minus 1. And we're told that the y is -37. And we're looking for the x value, which they've called w. So let's get our solving lines in. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is add 1 to both sides. And so it would be -36 equals -2x. I'm going to now times, or divide everything by -2. And a negative divided by a negative is positive. 36 divided by 2 is 18. And then obviously that gets rid of the coefficient of the x, so it's just x. So x equals 18. So the x value is 18 and the x value is the w value. So w is 18. To find the force, we need the pressure and the area. We're given the pressure in the question, so all we need to do is find out what the area of this circle is. And the formula is pi times r squared, which will be pi times the radius, which is 5 squared, which will be 78.539 blah blah blah. The formula for pressure is pressure equals force divided by the area, and we rearrange that to force equals pressure times area. Pressure, it says, is 0.1512. The area we found out in the previous question, and we keep that in our calculator, so we keep the accuracy up. And when you do that, you get 11.875, blah blah blah, rounded to the 2 decimal places it asks for, and you get 11.88 newtons. So here we're asked to factorise a quadratic, and our answer will be x plus or minus something, x plus or minus something. So it'll be 2 sets of brackets with an x at the start. Okay, so to be able to find out what's in the bracket, we look at the 36 there, and we know that we're going to have to multiply 2 numbers together to make that 36. And we look at the coefficient of the x, that 15, and we know we're going to have to add these numbers together to make that 15. Now, if you just can figure out in your head the answer, that's absolutely fine. If not, you can just quickly write down the factors of 36. Now, because they multiply together to make a positive 36, they'll either both be positive or both be negative, but they add together to make a positive number. So we're just looking at the positive factors. So 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9, and 6 and 6. And we're looking for which ones of those add together to make 15. And we can see here it's going to be 3 and 12 add together to make 15. So our 2 numbers are going to be +3 and +12, or the other way around. There's a lot going on with this question, so I'm going to start off just having a look at the total amount of money. So I'm going to do this in pence, so 2,115 pence. And if each merit point is worth 3 pence, then we can work out the amount of merit points by doing 2,115 divided by 3. So that gives us 705. So there's 705 merit points. Next, have a look at the question here, this part here, where it says James has X merit points. Sarah has 4 times as many points as James, so she's going to have 4x. Robert has 69 fewer merit points than James, so he's going to have x minus 69. And we know that that equals 705 because we've just worked that out. And this feels like a solving coming on. So we've got x plus 4x plus x, which is 6x. Minus 69 equals 705. And we're going to add 69 to both sides. So we've got 6x equals 774. Then we're going to divide 6 both sides. And so we've got x equals 129. So x equals 129. That means James has 129. Sarah has 4 times more, so she will have 516. And Robert has 69 fewer, so we're going to take 69 away from that, and that will equal 60. There are 2 shapes we need to find the volume of. There's this cylinder here and this hemisphere here. So we might as well start with this cylinder. And the formula for the volume is pi times r squared times height. So it's the radius is 9, so 9 squared times the height, which is 30. And when we work that out, we get 7,634.070, blah, blah, blah. Next is the hemisphere. To find the volume of the hemisphere, well, the volume of a sphere is 4/3 times pi times r cubed. But because it's a hemisphere, we just times that by 1/2. So it's 1/2 times 4/3 times pi times r, which is the radius, which is 9 cubed. And that gives us 1,526.814, blah, blah, blah. And so the total volume is 7,634.070, blah, 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 plus the 1,526.814, blah, 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 which equals 9,160.884, blah, blah, blah. It says it wants it to 2 decimal places, so when we round that, we get 9,160.88. First thing we need to do is work out the volume of this prism, and it's a trapezium-based prism. So the volume will be the area of the cross-section, or area of the trapezium, times the length, how 3D the prism is. So trapezium is half a plus b h, and then times the length. Now A and B are the 2 parallel sides, which will be this one and this one. And then the H is the perpendicular line that hits both of them at 90 degrees, which is what perpendicular means, between the bases. So this will be the 25 meters here. So it's going to be half, and then we're going to add 1 and 5, times that by 25. The length is how 3D it is, so it would be that 10 there. So we're going to times that by 10, and that will give us 750. So it's 750 meters cubed. Now, there is a little formula we can make for the rate. So the rate of anything, for this, will be the volume gained over time. Now, with this question though, we're interested in the time it will take. It says how long will it take. So we're actually looking at the time. So it will be time equals the volume, which is 750, over the rate, which is 15. So 750 divided by 15 is 50. So it will take 50, and let's have a look. It says per minute, so it would be 50 minutes. To work out the total surface area of the cone, we've got to first of all work out the curved surface area. And the formula for that is pi RL, with L being the slanted length. And this 13 here gives us the slanted length, so it's pi times the radius, which is 5, times 13. And that's going to be 204.203, blah, blah, blah. We'll keep that in our calculator. We've got to then work out the area of the circle at the bottom. So the area of the circle, which the formula is pi r squared. So it's going to be pi times 5 squared, which is 78.539, blah, blah, blah. And so the total surface area is just a matter of adding those together. And that will give us 282.743, blah, blah, blah. And 2 decimal places, that's going to be 282.74. This question relies on the fact that you know what the equation of a circle is. The equation of a circle is x squared plus y squared equals r squared. Now r is the radius of the circle. So when I rewrite this, and I write it with our 16 there, we can actually rewrite 16 as 4 squared. Okay, comparing this equation to this equation, we can see that r is 4. Now this equation, the x squared plus y squared equals r squared, gives a circle with the centre at 0, 0, at the origin. So it means that the radius will be 4, so the circle will go all the way up here, all the way across here, all the way down here, and all the way across here. Now, I am really, really bad at drawing circles, and so what I would recommend you do is use a compass and measure out 4 and join these up. I'm going to try my best. I don't have a compass that works with this graphics tablet, but I'm going to try and draw somewhat of a circle. There we are. That's probably the best circle I'm going to draw. So what you do is you just get a compass and put the point at 0, and then you would measure out 4 units. So measure it between the 0 and the 4, and then just draw a perfect circle round. We can write the equation of any linear graph as y equals mx plus c. So m is the gradient and c is the y-intercept. So we've got to find what the gradient and the y-intercept are. Well, I'm going to first of all try and figure out what the gradient is, because we're actually given some clues here. We're told that the line is perpendicular to the equation given. Now I'm going to rewrite this a little bit just to make it a bit clearer what the gradient of this is. So I'm going to write this as minus 1 over 12. I'm just going to leave a bit more of a gap there. Minus 1 over 12 x plus 12. And you can see that the number before the x, the coefficient of the x, is minus 1 over 12. But we're not told that it's parallel to that, so it's not, the equation that we've got is not going to have the gradient as minus 1 over 12. We're told it's perpendicular. Now, when two things are perpendicular, to find the gradient of the other one, if we know one of them, you've got to change the sign and find the reciprocal of the fraction. So to find our gradient, we're going to change the sign, so it's negative, so our gradient is going to be positive, and we're going to flip it. We're going to find the reciprocal. Reciprocal of 1 over 12 will be 12 over 1, or just 12. So the gradient of our line is going to be 12. To find the y-intercept, we're going to use the points given to us. So we've got x equals 3 and y equals 4 for a point on our line. We're going to substitute those into the equation we've got. So it's going to be 40 equals 12 times 3 plus c. put in our solving lines. 12 times 3 is 36. And we're going to take away that 36 both sides. So it's going to be 4 equals c, or c equals 4. So our equation will be y equals 12x plus 4. Capture-Recapture is a way of estimating total population sizes, and it uses a really nice formula, which is n equals little n times little m over big N. Now, n and m, the little ones, are are sample sizes. Okay, so they're the size of each sample, and this big M here is the amount that were marked in the second sample. Okay, so n is the first sample, m is the second sample size, and then m is marked. So marked in the second sample, because obviously you're going to mark all of them in the first sample. So what you do is you catch an amount of a trout in this case, mark them all with any kind of marking, and then you capture again, and capital M is the amount that were marked from the first sample in your second sample, and then capital N is the estimated population size. So that's what you think the overall population size is going to be. So here we caught a sample of 84 and tagged them all, and then we released them. Then we caught a sample of 56, and we found that 15 were tagged. And so when you do the sums on that, it's going to be 313.6. And when you round it to the nearest integer, because obviously you can't get 0.6 of a trout, we estimate it to be 314. Now this question is on the calculator paper, so we know we're going to be using the quadratic formula because it asks us to leave our answers to 2 decimal places. So for the quadratic formula, we need to work out what a equals, what b equals, and what c equals. Now a is the number before the x squared, which would be minus 2. B is the number on before the x, which would be 13, and c is the number on its own, which would be minus 17. We're going to write out the quadratic formula, so it's x equals minus b. Now I always put these into brackets, so I'm going to first of all just do the fraction first, just so we've got nice formatting on it. So we're going to have minus brackets b plus minus the square root of brackets b squared minus 4 times a in brackets times c in brackets. Okay, and the reason we put the brackets is that it's very, very easy to make mistakes with the negatives, and so if you put all the numbers in brackets, you'll never make that mistake, and it's going to be over 2a, so that's 2 times minus 2. We're going to first of all put that into our calculators with a plus there, and when you do it with a plus there, you get 1.813 blah blah blah. And then what you're going to do is use your calculator to go back to this and change it for a net minus. And when we do that, we get 4.686 blah blah blah. And so to 2 decimal places, we've got 1.81 and 4.69. To find the length of the rectangle, what we're going to do is we're going to get the area and we're going to divide it by the width. Now, the question says that it wants the minimum length, so we want the length to be as small as possible. Obviously, to do that, we want the area to be as small as possible. If the area is smaller, the length will be smaller. But let's have a look at a couple of fractions. So let's have a look at a half and 1 over 100. Which one of those fractions is the smallest? Well, it's 1 over 100, but what do you notice about the denominator? That as the denominator gets bigger, the fraction gets smaller. So to make something smaller, we actually want the denominator to be as big as possible. So we want the width to be as large as possible. So we're going to find the lower bound of the area. And an easy way to find a lower bound is find the accuracy. Well, it says the accuracy is to the nearest 10. And what we're going to do is halve that. So half of 10 is 5. And then we're going to take it away from the area. So it's 98,540, take away 5, which will be 98,535. Now for the width, we're going to do the same thing, half the accuracy, half of 10 is 5, but we're looking for the upper bound, we're looking for the biggest it can be. So we're going to add that on, 1, 2, 3, 5. And when you do that calculation, you get the answer of 79.78542, blah, blah. And it says it wants it to 4 decimal places. So we're going to do 79.7854. The first thing to notice is that 125 is 5 cubed. So instead of 1 over 125, it would be 1 over 5 cubed. And we know that when you have a negative power, it actually turns into the reciprocal of that number. So 5 to the power of minus 3 becomes 1 over 5 to the power of 3. So n is going to be this minus 3. To find the inverse, we're going to first of all, instead of writing f of x, I'm just going to replace it with a y. And the trick of finding the inverse is to swap over the x and the y. So we're going to swap them over. I'm just going to do it over to the right hand side over here so we've got a bit of space. Now the challenge is to get it so that it's y equals rather than x equals. So we're going to start off by multiplying both sides by 4. And that will give us 4x on the left hand side, and it will get rid of the fraction on the right hand side, which was kind of the point. Next we're going to get rid of that minus 6, so we're going to add 6 both sides. And then finally we're going to get rid of that times 5 there by dividing both sides by 5. So we've got 4x plus 6 over 5 equals y. And we use y as a replacement for the inverse function of x. And so we're just going to say the inverse function of x, which is what that minus 1 means. It means inverse, equals 4x plus 6 over 5. So we're told to complete the square, so we're just going to get this equation here and just complete the square for it. So the first thing I'm going to do is remove the coefficient of the x squared. So we want just x squared and so on. So I'm just going to make a set of brackets. And we're going to factorise it out of the x squared and the minus 24x. So that would be minus 8x. Then we've got the take away 15. Next, I'm going to complete the square. So I'm going to do this in a different colour just so we can see what's happening. And to do this, we have a bracket with an x minus half of the coefficient of the x. So that'd be 4 squared. Now if we expand that, we get x squared, brilliant, minus 8x, fantastic, and then we have a plus 16. So we need to remove the 16, so we're going to take away the 16. Next we're going to expand the bracket with the 3 in. So we're going to have 3 brackets x minus 4 squared, or close bracket squared, minus 48, minus 15, and then we're just going to tidy that up by adding the numbers together, so that would be minus 63. On our graph, we're going to draw the graph of y equals 3x squared. Okay, simple. And we don't need to, it's only a sketch, so we don't need to worry about exact values, but we do know the most important thing is we know it goes through the origin, so it hits here at 0, 0. That's the important thing. Okay? Because we know that if we called that f of x, then the situation we've got here, well, it's going to be f of x minus 4, okay, because we've got the minus 4 there. So that means it will move to the right 4. Okay. And it will also, we've got to worry about that minus 63 as well. And if we had f of x minus 63, we know it goes down 63. So in total, we have f of x minus 4 take away 63. That's what we have in total. So we're moving just 4 to the right and then 63 down. So instead of 0, 0, our minimum point will be at 4 minus 63. You can complete a unique version of this paper by going to our onmaths site. onmaths is full of free content to help you prepare for your exams, such as topic-based papers, demon questions, and mini mocks. If you like what we do, please consider subscribing.